Hello there, I'm Kaz. If you've been watching the past few reviews for games released this year on this channel, you might have noticed that they've been fairly negative. That's not really reflective of my feelings towards this year in gaming as a whole.
2015 has been, overall, a good year for video games. It has not been a great year, certainly no 2007, but it's a massive improvement over the abysmal 2014.
Heck, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be going over some of the highlights that 2015 had to offer. In the meantime, we have Steamworld Heist, a sequel to one of 2013's biggest surprises, Steamworld Dig.
Although calling it a sequel is a bit misleading, since Heist is connected to Dig by the world, not its genre, trading in exploration and action for turn-based tactics, which is kind of worrisome. That sort of change in genre between sequels doesn't have the best track record. There's what? Metroid Prime? Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox? At a stretch, Fallout? Those are the only times that kind of paradigm shift has ever worked for a new entry in a main series. Well, then again, Steamworld Dig was itself a sequel to Steamworld Tower Defense on the DSi, so maybe this series is the exception to the rule. Let's find out if the third time's the charm with Steamworld Heist.
The Earth, broken into 1,000,000 shards, forcing its steam-driven inhabitants into space.
Steamworld Heist starts off after the Earth has blown up. A new Steamworld, oh I get it, rising from the ashes, with the oppressive royalist stomping on the hard-working cowboy class that farms the land, and Rusty's hand/pickaxe serving as the loading icon. Don't know why, but it does. As the captain of a group of space pirates, Piper has to deal with a growing group of brutal bots called the Scrappers treading on her territory, rob the ruthless royalist, and eventually something more sinister that lurks in the Milky Way, all through 2D turn-based tactical shooting and looting. True to its name, Heist crafts its mission structure in a manner more focused on getting in and out as quick as possible, rather than a slow, methodical approach. While smart shots and careful moves will get the job done, sometimes it's better to run to the end room, grab what you need and leave before the alarm goes off if it hasn't already. Running can also help you get out of tricky combat situations too, but running that extra distance prevents you from shooting or using a piece of your gear. It's fairly unorthodox for a tactics title, but it manages to be a rather refreshing approach to the genre thanks to some smart design choices. In some tactics titles, enemies will pop up after a certain amount of turns, and said unaccounted visitors can turn what would seem like victory into defeat. One of the more recent attempts to resolve these random encounters, that being in Fire Emblem Awakening, was to let the player know when enemies would spawn, along with giving them a couple of turns to plan out against a new possible threat. Heist's handling of this dilemma makes it so the new enemies can get close to you, but they can't hit you on the turn they spawn, which makes it a lot more fair than simply taking a hit from an unexpected new foe. At the end of each mission, you'll discover the identity of whatever booty you looted, gain experience points, and increase your reputation, with a higher reputation for completing missions with every member of your squad intact, and whether or not the player has collected the, epic swag. Yes, that is really what they call the best kind of booty in this game. The higher your reputation, the better items you can buy along with more areas and missions you can explore and take on respectively, as well as new characters to recruit. Though one minor problem with the latter of these is that the recruits always seem to start off at weaker levels than your current ones, thus they need to be leveled up to catch up with your other troops. This isn't a major problem since experience is handed out for participation in meeting objectives rather than the amount of fallen foes taken out by a certain unit, and they are worth using since they're all unique units, though some of them may require new equipment in order to actually use them, along with the aforementioned experience points.
That's the main drawback with Steamworld Heist. The structure is there, and there's not a whole lot wrong with the execution outside of minor details, but it's those minor missteps that add up over the course of its lengthy campaign.
For one, item space is very limited at the start, constantly needing to buy extra storage units to hold whatever weapons and equipment are wielded by your growing squadron. Well, that or sell it, but Heist does a poor job of letting you know how to do this. There are shots where you can buy equipment, which you think will let you sell whatever junk you don't need anymore, but nope, it's done in the item menu. Still, this is convenient and letting you quickly cash in on whatever's cluttering up your limited inventory, certainly more so than flying to the nearest shop after every mission. It's just a bit annoying that the game fails to explain any of this. Likewise, while it is great that Reputation serves a purpose in granting more seasoned players the opportunity to take on some very tactful levels, the missions themselves could have used more variety instead of the bloat of often seemingly similar ones that appear here. And here's where a comparison between Steamworld Dig and Steamworld Heist feels necessary. Whereas Steamworld Heist feel fairly compact and can be easily beaten in a single enjoyable session, Heist is best played in several short bursts rather than longer ones to break out the very samey feeling missions. Not to say there isn't any variety in terms of goals, there's the occasional elimination or intel scavenging to break up the usual grabbing loot or shooting a set amount of scrap heaps alongside minor behavioral differences between the main forces. However, most of these missions are structured in such a way that the differences between them end up being too subtle. As a result, they end up feeling identical to one another and rather formulaic. Get in, shoot heads and hats, grab items, get out. The only two types that are notably distinct are the boss battles and the survival ones, the former of which suffer from said bosses possessing a ridiculous amount of health that take way too long to take down, especially when they generate a shield that protects them from damage every quarter or third of the way through their health. The final boss is a particularly annoying encounter in this regard, constantly regenerating a shield every time you take a quarter of its health off, and the shields take forever to take down. Survival missions, on the other hand, are much more refreshing, encouraging your squad to constantly adapt to ongoing waves of enemies while waiting for an opportunity to escape, which is a neat way to shake things up from the usual go to X, shoot Y, pick up Z formula. If there is any major fault for Heist, it's that the AI can be pretty dumb, hitting either itself or damaging other nearby enemies. On default difficulty, Heist isn't particularly difficult outside of the occasional spike, so these blunders can make some of the earlier missions a complete cakewalk. Then again, maybe this is to compensate for any possibly ill-placed shots on your part, considering that your weapons keep moving after you've aimed it. This constant swaying makes it difficult to properly aim laser sightless weapons that will no doubt lead to quite a few times where a distant shot will miss because it moved at the last second. While a weapon with a laser sight will help with this problem, they're not immune to this irritating inconvenience, and thus they're being fired up close. Again, none of this is enough to bring down the entire experience from being as enjoyable as it is. It's just one of the many petty problems that holds Steamworld Heist back from being the tactical masterpiece it could have been. Presentation-wise, Heist is immensely impressive for the 3DS, crafting a very charming, very detailed world with creative character designs throughout, along with its accompanying Banjo-Kazooie-esque gibberish dialogue and quirky soundtrack.
During a year where it felt like there was one bad tactics title after another, it is a delight to see it finally end on one that actually turned out to be good.
Genre shift aside, it's not as enjoyable an experience as Steamworld Dig, mainly due to the lack of brevity. The average playthrough will be about 15 hours, and big amount of little issues. It's certainly a unique take on the genre, and it does blend in some forward ideas fairly well. However, the lack of variety among missions, along with that aforementioned wave of problems, hold it back from true tactical greatness. Hopefully when the game comes out on other consoles, these problems will be addressed. For now, it's a good addition to the 3DS's list of worthwhile tactics titles.
Steamworld Heist earns a 7.5 out of 10. That's all for now, folks. Until next time, game on, my friends.